Hello YouTubers, this is Cessna Ace back again with another video. I'm going to concentrate this time on magazine ads, because if I were to also include book ads, it would be a massive video. And I'm trying to make these videos as short as possible because of the ongoing off again, on again audio problems that I've been experiencing. I don't want to drive people crazy, but anyway, that's why I'm doing the shorter videos. For those of you Americans anyway who are a little older like myself, you might remember Tom Snyder. He hosted the show Tomorrow, which followed the Tonight Show. They had kind of a thing going. Today's Show, Tonight Show, Tomorrow Show, later with Bob Costas. Anyway, Tom Snyder, really cool interviewer, big into electric trains. Sadly, he is no longer with us. I don't know what happened to his electric trains. Maybe if I read that article, I'll know. These are the magazines that I have not read cover to cover. I've read articles out of them, but I haven't read them cover to cover. There are quite a few magazines that I've added that are not going to be shown because I have put them away because I have read them cover to cover. Got a little upset with my youngest brother. He's the one who owns his own airplane anyway. He reads Model Railroader and he reads a lot of flying magazines naturally. So a few years ago, wife and I and the kiddies were visiting him and asked him where his back issues were. He said, in Anemone. They come in, he reads them, recycle bin. I've got magazines that go back to 1978. This is a really good magazine. I'm not just saying that because I've exchanged emails with the editor, and I'm not just saying that because I've had a letter published in the letter columns, which is not that easy to do because he gets a lot of letters from filmmakers, people who are covered in the magazine, but really cool. I have nearly finished reading this one cover to cover. Starting to pick up some rather disturbing bits of information. Little rumors that the PlayStation 4 and perhaps the Xbox 720 will not be capable of playing used games. As I mentioned to Steve Benway, if that happens, I will not be buying those consoles. The article in here on a new Star Trek video game, rather uplifting because according to them it's a really good game. They say perhaps the best Star Trek game ever made, and it falls, chronologically speaking, between the events of the reboot movie done by Mr. Abrams and the next film in the reboot series. So it falls in the middle. Bet you didn't know Steam was back. Okay, I have a DVD that covers the same ground, including one very disturbing video, which thankfully they paused just at the right moment because that particular section deals with people who aren't careful at crossings. And this woman, I don't know what she was thinking. She was crossing at a crossing, and you heard the bells and the ding 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 and everything, And she was crossing right where was a train engine. Big train engine. So she couldn't see anything. And she walks out, and here comes the train. But she can't see it. And it freezes just as it gets to her. But you know it's going to hit her. Most of the movie magazines that are published in the U.S. now are either to do with horror and science fiction, or they're retro. We used to have a ton of movie magazines that covered all genres, and unfortunately we no longer do. Horror and sci-fi have taken over, along with retro. By the way, before I progress, I've added 2 more countries to my ABBA album collection. I picked these up yesterday and today. This one was published in Argentina, or manufactured and released in Argentina. And it's got several of their Spanish language tracks. They did about a dozen in Spanish. Some of them, or a lot of them actually, have Agneta singing the lead vocal. But there's at least one that has Frida singing the lead vocal. This one, I'm not quite sure where it came from. I'm thinking maybe China, but maybe somebody can tell me. Because it doesn't say anywhere. But it was released by Yungfeng. Yungfeng. So, if this was actually released in China, then China, in my collection, China, Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, Spain, Yugoslavia, Japan, US, England, and Sweden. Speaking of retro and movie magazines, this is a really good one. It's called Film Facts Plus. They call it Plus because the same publisher used to put out a magazine called Auteur, which covered a lot of great retro stuff. Some behind the scenes of some Disney attractions that haven't existed in 40 years, and interviews with people connected with Pink Floyd, and an interview with Stan Freberg, and a whole bunch of stuff. Anyway, they ceased publishing that and integrated it with Film Facts. So when they did that, they called Film Facts Plus. These are all naturally Film Facts Plus. This is one of the few magazines, in fact, this is the only magazine I have sent a letter to the editor and have it not published. Every other magazine, I have managed to do that. Usually with the first letter. So go figure. Warner Archive. I have a lot of DVDs from Warner Archive. Now the weird thing is, when I was in school, I hated history. I hated history with a passion. Now I love history. And so I watch a lot of the History Channel, History 2, and the Military Channel. Ancient Warfare. Her name is Natalia Mecklin. She flew 982 bomber missions, which is quite a feat because most bomber pilot crews were generally rotated out after about 15 or 20 missions because by then your number was past due being up. Of course, you never know, that number could be inflated, but I'm not going to insinuate that. Okay, this is a magazine I have never heard of before, but they had it at Books A Million. It covers lifestyle, tech, music, gadgets, gaming, movies, and comics. And some of you guys say they picked an appropriate cover. Geek. Two of the actors play Captain Kirk, two of the actors to play Spock. Really, 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 really good UK magazine devoted to retro cinema. These are all stamped with special UK import and that sort of thing. But really, really good. There are photos related to movies I have been fans of for a long time that I have never seen. And I have learned a lot concerning these movies that I did not know before. So, Cinema 6 Sirens. That might be something I might want to get. If you ever get a chance to listen to lengthy interviews with John Landis, there's one on YouTube that's 3 hours long. He'll invariably bring up this movie because he was hired as one of the many gophers and so forth on this film. Kelly's Heroes, which was filmed behind the Iron Curtain during the height of the Cold War. And he talked about how he got behind the Iron Curtain. It's the way everybody did, pretty much. Hiding underneath the train, riding that way. And quite roomy, actually, according to him. It was quite stark. Going from, back then, Germany was divided. East Germany and West Germany. West Germany was, or is, capitalist. Allies rebuilt West Germany after the war. And the economy there has blossomed. Going to East Germany, nothing has been rebuilt. It looks like it did right after the war ended. Bombed out buildings and everything. Everybody living in misery. There's nothing to do, according to him. Of course, he talks like he might be in sympathy with the political views, but then evidence that he saw, you would think otherwise. Kit Planes. I don't know. I love Sweden. I've been to Sweden and the Netherlands and Denmark. As much as I love Sweden, back when ABBA was big, every time they released a hit record, which is pretty much every time they released a record, there were musicians in Sweden that would hold rallies and so forth and sing anti-ABBA songs. And these people couldn't carry a note in a bag if they had to. If their life depended on it, they couldn't carry a note. And I never could I still to this day can't understand what was behind that, which is envy. They couldn't achieve the success that ABBA did, so they were going to cut into ABBA. And Bono tells a story that he was pretty much in that camp, and I think he went to Sweden. He was going to do a concert, and he was going to really rip into ABBA, but somewhere along the way, he changed his mind. He became an ABBA fan once he started really listening to what they were doing in their songs and how complex the simplicity was. That may sound oxymoronic, but on the surface, their music sounds simplistic. Benny and Bjorn will tell you this. There's not much there, and all that stuff. But if you listen, there's a lot going on in the background. A lot of strange instruments that they were mixing together, like doubling up saxophones with guitars and so forth and so on. Another Sweden story. Not that picture. When the John Wayne film, The Green Berets, which for some strange reason, my wife loves that movie, and she hates all of John Wayne's war movies. She prefers the westerns and the comedies and that sort of thing. But she really likes the Green Berets. And when the Green Berets played in Sweden, a theater that was playing it was bombed. Okay, if you don't like a movie, fine. But bombing a theater? I mean, get a grip. Okay, on the back of this, there is a photo of one of the infamous Video Nasties, one of the films banned in England back in the 80s. I don't know if it's still banned there, but this movie was released on Laserdisc 3 times, all 3 times in the US. I Spit on Your Grave is the name of the film. And I was working at Channel 17 here locally when that film came out, and I was working in Master Control, and I remember when the program director came in carrying a little spool of 16 millimeter film, and he said he had a spot that came in. He wanted to check it before they put it out on the air because he had a feeling or something. Anyway, I had the projectors already loaded for the telecine. That station had 2 telecines. Each one had 2 projectors and a slide drum. So we had 2 slide drums and 4 projectors, 2 Eastmans and 2 RCAs. Well, we didn't use Eastmans unless it was in case of emergency. Typically used the RCAs. The RCAs could play back films with either magnetic soundtracks or optical. For optical, because sound on optical blocks up faster. Magnetic, if you're old enough and you can remember watching television back then, in the 70s, for example, and a commercial would come up, and it would, that's a magnetic soundtrack not locking up. Anyway, it was a commercial for I Spit on Your Grave. And after it ran, after I played it for him, he said, "We can't run that. We're not going to run that." This is another retro movie mag that I like. This one's published in the US. Film Effects Plus is too. Rue Morgue. Although this would have made an interesting cover too, the ad on the back from EB Games. Lollipop Chainsaw. Okay. EB exclusive. Xbox 360, Xbox Live, and it says PlayStation, but I assume it means just PlayStation 3. I don't think they're still coming out with PlayStation 2 games, are they? Rue Morgue again. Okay, really, really good retro gaming magazine out of the UK. I think pretty much everyone who reads magazines devoted to retro reads Retro Gamer, because it is just an amazing magazine. And of course, being a UK publication, they cover systems that we didn't get here. We got the Commodore 64, but we didn't get the Amstrad, we didn't get the Acorn Electra, we didn't get the Spectrum. I like how they put the banner up there. Old. They have a homebrew section in each issue. That's how I know there's a game in development for the Atari 2600 that uses the melody board from Atari Age. Speaking of which, I have some homebrew games coming from Atari Age. I have a lot of Atari games coming from various places. Okay, this is a sister magazine published by the same publisher. Covers the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, Wii, computer, iPad, PS Vita, 3DS, PSP, iPhone, DS, arcade, and retro. Games TM. Now, one of my favorite features in this magazine, Conversion Catastrophe. Now, this is interesting because they cover, what they do is they cover a port. Horrible. Worst port of that game ever. And then what you should have been playing, the port, for example, you should have been playing. Okay. Well, on this particular game, Atari Warriors, the version you should avoid was released for the Commodore 64. What you should have been playing was a version released for the Commodore 64. Which I find interesting. The publisher on both is Data East. The one you should avoid was developed by Quicksilver Software. The one you should be playing, it was developed by Elite Systems. Okay, retro section. Article devoted to Phantasy Star. Conversion Catastrophe. Amadar. think I have that one. You should avoid the Atari 2600 version. And if you can, play the Amstrad version. Oh, we didn't get the Amstrad here. Hey, a pinball machine. Actually, it's a whole article on pinball. And then they cover the best of virtual pinball. See if they have my favorite in there, which is Pinball of the Dead, which was released for the Game Boy Advance. It was based on Sega's House of the Dead franchise. Really cool game. Alien Crush, PC Engine and Arcade. Galactic Pinball Virtual Boy. Devil Crash, PC Engine and Mega Drive. Remember, this is a UK publication, so they're not going to say Genesis. Pokemon Pinball, Game Boy Color. I do have that one. That is a good game. Revenge of the Gator, Game Boy. Sonic's Pinball, Mega Drive. Well, I don't have it for the Mega Drive, but I do have it for the Genesis. And it's a good game. Fantastic Pinball, PlayStation, and Saturn. I have that one, but I don't remember for which system. Conversion Catastrophe. Okay. Altered Beast. Avoid playing it on the Famicom and play it on the Mega Drive. When the Genesis first launched in the US, Altered Beast was the game it came packed with. And then when they packed in Sonic the Hedgehog, sales exploded. Sega was really hesitant to do that because that was a game they were really proud of and they were really looking forward to releasing it, and their American representative or whatever said it needs to be your packing game. But they did it and it turned out to be a good thing. Okay. Conversion Catastrophe. Miner 2049er. It's one of the games I think it exists in prototype form, and that's Miner 2049er 2. But anyway, avoid playing it on the Atari 2600 and play it instead on the Atari 800. And finally, who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. Now, I spent hours going through my Laserdisc ads from yesterday because I went into yesterday and today out at the flea market. Bill wasn't there, but his parents were, and his dad said to me first thing, "We got a lot of Laserdiscs in, over 500 right down there. And in fact, we've added another row." Great. We're up to about 1900 now that are out, and I hate that thing. But anyway, I'll use that as an excuse to say, time's up. Till next time, stay awesome.